We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The movement was begun by a scientist who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent. We have been lulled into a trance. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered.
They want their weapons.
Look out for Charlie.
I want that son of a bitch dead. I want him dead.
Alright, I talked about this in my last video and we are going to continue it. As a doctor can see things that are totally obvious, poison ivy, athlete's foot, chicken pox, whatever, there are a certain amount of red flags that pop up for me where I recognize a situation as a targeted situation. And I know the symptoms through and through. I'm not guessing at stuff. And it blows my mind and pisses me off that I see people and channels still talking about this kind of stuff as though it's a great mystery. They can't figure out what's going on. And even as a normie, you know, like a regular Joe, I think I would be able to put these pieces together and say there is something wrong here. This is the same story over and over. The script is tweaked just a little bit, but the story is exactly the same. It never changes. It's the same fucking script. I know all the tricks. I know all the haunted house bullshit that they pull on people. And while we're there, let's talk about the haunted house thing for a minute. You know, one of the first things that they do with the haunted house shit is make it sound like a piano just fucking fell out of a plane and fell on your house. They do that to people all the time. Now, I don't know if there's a reason for that, but they use it, and it happened to me. And this was a long time ago. And I was in my living room, and it sounded like they dropped a piano out of an airplane, and it went through my roof. My house shook. And I was like, oh my God, dude, something hit the house. I thought maybe a tree fell on the house. Because I ran upstairs and I didn't see anything in the attic or sticking out of the ceilings. So I ran downstairs and ran out, and I was positive that I was going to see a tree sitting on the house. And there was nothing there. And that's one of the things that started that for me. And they use the same thing over and over with these haunted house victims and these targets and these people that are going through demonic attack and all this bullshit. And it just blows my mind that people cannot put this together and go, wow, look it, this person is going through this person is going through this is going on, this is going on. You know, what is up with that? Are people just fucking stupid? Or are they trying to make money off these? I don't get it. I just don't get it. So let's go through some of these. Before I start this, I'd like to say that people are picked out for this kind of shit for many different reasons. You can come on radar for a multitude of reasons. You can be Sue happy. You can be someone who is receiving some sort of, government aid. You can just be someone that worked for, let's say, NASA or whatever. You can be just a dude that may have pushed the wrong buttons with somebody. The reason isn't why, because a lot of people want to ask that. They always say, why would they pick this person? They're morons. You're all carrying around cell phones, and we live in an algorithm age. We do not live in the 20th century anymore, and it's their 20th century attitude towards technology that fucks this all up. When you look at it in a 21st century tech way, there is blanket surveillance that is looking for keywords about aliens, Bigfoot, witchcraft, stuff about the government, stuff about people who run the government, anything. And when those keywords pop up, there might come a time when a real person looks into it and they decide to put you in this program. When they put you in this program, things start to happen. And it depends on what they want to do with you. This has jumped up dramatically since 9/11. So if you're a denier, think about that. Okay, I'm going to connect the dots for you guys. The first case I want to talk about is Gray State. That's the David Crowley case. David Crowley was around like way back in like the Alex Jones heyday when he was picking up. And he was a dude that was in the military, and he became disillusioned in the military. He got out. He had a wife and a daughter, and he started working on this movie called Gray State that was basically about a police state. And he was a little behind the times on his thinking because he was still thinking microchips. You know, everybody's going to be microchipped when he was already probably smart dusted. You know, you get what I'm saying? So he was a little bit behind the times, but his intentions were good. So, you know, he had been working on this movie for a long time, and it was moving along. He was talking to people in Hollywood, and there's another thing. A lot of people that deal with this shit have had brushes with Hollywood and the music industry. Think about that. So anyway, David Crowley is working on this, and his wife is totally supportive of him. And what ends up happening is they start to get weird, and they kind of drop out and quit talking to family and friends. And when they do start talking to people again, they start asking them, what would demonic attack look like? What does this look like? What does this entail? They thought they were under demonic attack. The wife, Kamel, is hearing voices. Let's say, for example, she would read her daughter a story, and then after the story, she heard a deep voice say, "Did you like the story?" You know, shit like that. It's like, come on, man. Total clown world, the same script every time. They're driven nuts by this, right? And then right around Christmas, nobody hears from them. And when they finally go over there and go into the house, they find, get this, everybody dead, and someone has painted Allah Akbar on their wall. Now, she was an Arab woman, okay? But she wasn't a Muslim. And this guy had been to Iraq, and I'm sure, I am positive, that they attacked David Crowley as a demon from Iraq or Afghanistan. Do you get what I'm saying? So they came back there, and what do they find written in blood on the wall? Allah Akbar. Everybody is dead. But it's wintertime in fucking Minnesota, which is just like Ohio, Michigan, or any of these other places. It's fucking cold. And guess what happened? Somebody left the sliding door cracked. Well, what does that do? That slows down decomposition. That does a lot of things. But also, they left the dog alive. And the dog, I guess, kind of chewed on the family and stuff. But the point being is that someone was there and they ruled it a murder-suicide. You could go through all of this and realize that nobody was going to murder their child, and leave the dog alive. It's just not going to happen. The whole point is that they were under demonic attack. And it's bullshit. These are operations. Now, here's the Crowley case. I just kind of outlined it for you. Now, let's check out the Jamison family. Here's the Jamison family, okay? Husband, wife, daughter, with a dog. The exact same thing as the Crowley case. Identical. Except he was in a car accident a long time ago, messed up his back, couldn't work, he was on welfare. They love that because when you're accepting money from the state, they can basically use you as a guinea pig. Check out the fine print, you know, before you apply for anything. So he had been in a car accident, was taking pain pills. She was, they said bipolar, but everybody is bipolar now. They try to, diagnose everybody with some kind of mental illness. They had paranormal stuff going on around their house, okay? Now, if anybody's dealt with this before, they start believing that ghosts or people are on their roof. Now, after the big boom, when the big boom happens to people and their houses shake, what always happens? Yes, you always start to hear walking on your roof or your attic. Always. Always. And when it happened in my attic, I laughed my ass off because my attic is like 3 feet tall. I recorded it, and it's awesome because all it is are some sounds tweaked out. That's it. Just some sounds tweaked out and shot at the house. As a matter of fact, I did the creaking and cracking in Bill Cottle's hospital room, and all it was MIDI snare sounds that had been tweaked. You show this to any audio person, some MIDI techno dude, and he'll go, oh yeah, that's a MIDI snare sound. And I'll even play it for you. My attic was 3 feet tall, if that. So what did they have, little people running around up there trying to, make me think there were demons up there? No. There's nobody running around up there. So when you've got the sounds of somebody running through your attic, and there's absolutely no room to move around, what, do you really think that people are going to come through there and assassinate you? Or whatever operation they're trying to have you perceive? It's total bullshit. Total clown world. So anyway, we've got this family that starts to go under attack. He says that he sees ghosts or knows ghosts are on the roof. Okay, the daughter is talking to people. He's dealing with ghosts. He goes to his pastor or his priest and asks him if there's somewhere that he can go to buy bullets to kill these things. Because you start to rationalize this when it's happening. That's what people don't understand. You start to really rationalize it because it sounds very real. And they had sued some people, and he had been to court with his father over the money over a gas station. There's a lot of small details to this, but I'm just giving you the outline. What ends up happening is they want to get out of the city and get the fuck away, just like the Weaver family, just like Randy Weaver and his wife. So they buy some land in like rural nowhere Oklahoma. So they go out to check out some stuff at one point. They're in their truck, and what happens? They all end up missing. Okay? But some four-wheeler dudes are coming along one day and find the truck. And what is in the truck? The dog. Alive. Just like David Crowley and his family. Exactly. Except the bodies of the family are gone. And sometime later, they find all three people, the wife, the husband, and the daughter, dead, face down, out in the Oklahoma nowhere, and they rule it a murder-suicide. Just like Crowley, same exact case. They got on somebody's radar. They thought they were under attack by ghosts, where in the Crowley case, they thought it was demons. See, it's all a choose-your-own-adventure book, because you start to put the pieces together in your head and decide what's going on. And then they all end up dead. And that is what they do every fucking time. It is the same story over and over. And whether or not it's a family or one dude or whatever, they use this all the time. I know the signs. I know the symptoms. I see this weapon used once or twice a day. I see a story in my research where I go, oh yeah, that person was targeted with this. And it's not like you have to do an operation. Most of it is AI. The ghosts and all the shit are AI controlled. What happens is something drives them over the edge. But in these cases, these people were murdered as well as targeted. For some reason, they were murdered just like the Crowley family. It is the same fucking script. Let's talk about some of the other weirdness that was found. Think about this. They go out to check some property out. The wife had wrote a bitch letter, bitching about her husband, saying, all kinds of shit about him, which a lot of people do. And she had a journal. That was in her journal. Okay, that wasn't meant to be a letter for this guy. Somebody took that out of her journal and put it in the truck. So when they would find it, they would go, whoa, she really hated her husband. Do you get what I'm saying here? Why would she go out to check some property out and tear that out of her journal and bring it with her? It makes no sense. They also found all the wallets, her cell phones, money, and 30 grand in cash hidden under the seat. 30 grand in cash. If you ask me, they didn't even put that money there. They didn't even put that money there. That shit was put there to fuck it all up. And the cadaver dogs, kept hitting on the water tank. Like all these cases with water, it kept hitting on the water tank, but they ended up finding them out of the water tank, face down, so it's pretty fucked up. These people are electronically targeted to drive them nuts or make them look crazy or eccentric, and then something happens. Every one of them. The families seem to end up dead, and the singular people seem to end up either in jail because they did something, driven insane, or dead themselves. They might put themselves in a really dangerous position trying to hide from what is going on because they believe it's totally real. You know, these acts by people are not the behavior of crazy people. These are sane people who are trying to figure out what is going on around their home or their vicinity, because it can follow you. It doesn't have to be just home. Okay, before we go any further, I said that I would play the hospital bed of Bill Cottle audio. I want you to listen to it because this is the exact audio that I had of my roof. That doesn't happen anymore, of course, on my roof, but these are the same sounds. When you hear somebody walking on your roof, they're taking these sounds and shooting them at your house or pumping them through the electrical grid, and they are popping out. So let's check out these sounds. Right there. That's hi-hat, snare. Tweet. Hi-hat, snare, and it was slowed down so you could hear it. Tweet. That's hi-hat. Tweet. Hi-hat. Tweet. Now snare. Hi-hat, snare. Tweet. Hi-hat, snare. That's all it is. That's all this shit is. So when you hear your house cracking and stuff, record it. That's the original. Hi-hat, snare. Hi-hat, snare. Hi-hat, snare. It's the same sound over and over. See that? That's a MIDI hi-hat and a MIDI snare. Let me say that I was totally interested in the paranormal before this. I was totally interested in the paranormal. It broke my heart when I realized that you could not trust anything paranormal because the paranormal realm had basically been hijacked. I'm not saying that it's paranormal. I'm saying that they are using technology that appears paranormal to people. And it broke my heart. So I'm not just some, atheist that was pushing it all to the side and just denying. I was totally interested in it, and it broke my heart. Okay, here's Elisa Lam. She was the Asian from Canada who went on vacation and then all of a sudden started acting weird. Well, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It seems like they use that as an excuse to test this on people. The psychiatry industry tries to tell you that there's no stigma to it anymore. You can step forward and get diagnosed with blah, 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 blah. And then they diagnose you with this bullshit, and then if something happens, they use it against you. Well, she was bipolar, so who knows? Your behavior and your actions are no longer trusted. So they show her talking and motioning to somebody out in the hall. She was getting hit with V2K, for Christ's sake, just like everybody else. She could hear this and was trying to figure out what was going on, and she was scared. And then she ends up where? In a water tank. Just like the dogs hit on the water tank of the Jamison family for some reason. I'm still trying to figure that part out, because not everybody that deals with this vanishes. But she was found in a water tank, and she was hearing V2K. This is not uncommon, and the fact that they aren't putting this together is infuriating. Now, earlier I talked about how often I see this, and it's absolutely true. I can pick out the symptoms and identify it almost right away and be able to tell you how they got these people to behave like they did. What I was doing is one day, not long ago, I was watching 7 disturbing mysteries that remain unsolved, haunting disappearances, okay? I watched 7 of these, and 4 of them definitely had to do with this technology, and 1 maybe. This is something to really take note of. I just watched a random video, and 4 of them were certainly using this tech to either fuck with the person, to push them off course, or scare them into doing something stupid. So take account of that. The first one was Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. Had nothing to do with this at all. The second one was the mystery of Magdalena Zuke, and how she went missing. And she was a girl who was supposed to go with her boyfriend on a trip to Egypt. And something came up with the guy's passport, coincidentally, so she had to travel alone if she wanted to go. Well, she decided to go alone. And she gets to the hotel and immediately starts acting weird and starts sending messages to her friends and family that she's hearing voices in the hotel room. So this chick just goes to Egypt and suddenly starts to hear voices, right? So what these voices do and what they're intended to do is to scare you into doing insanely stupid stuff, because these people aren't schizophrenics. These are people that just started to hear voices out of nowhere, and they're threatening, and they're trying to rationalize, why the fuck am I hearing this? How am I picking up the signal? Because most of the time, their ears are ringing along with what they're hearing. So it sounds like you're picking up a radio transmission. In one scenario, they can pretend like they are surprised that you can hear that you're bugged. That's what they'll do. And they will scare people into doing insane stuff. And because of technology, if you want to call it Eye of God technology or whatever, they can see who is around in the area and who isn't. So they can scare the shit out of you by saying, hey, we're sending an assassin up to your room as room service, and that person's going to kill you. And then you see somebody from room service show up, you're going to freak out. Because you're not insane, you're a sane person trying to rationalize what the fuck is happening to you. They're telling her that people are going to kill her, most definitely. Or take her away and make her become a sex slave or some shit, to scare the shit out of her, hype her up, and get her to do crazy things. She's with a guide for a while, and then she's put in a hospital where, for sure, they're telling her that, the hospital staff is going to kill her. She gets in tons of fights with people trying to get away from them. And then she eventually, jumps out the window and dies. Right? So that is what happens to these people. They are pushed to do crazy things because they are sane people rationalizing this technology, why they are hearing it, and the voices. If somebody's telling you, a man in a yellow hat is going to kill you, and then suddenly a man in a yellow hat shows up at your door when he's really just there to check your meter or something, you're gonna panic. I don't care who you are. People just don't understand what's happening. The second one out of 7 was one of these cases. The second one. The third one in this is Kenny Veach, which happens to be the second one that has to do with this technology. So this guy was a hiker, kind of an eccentric guy, and he ended up going hiking to this cave and felt vibrations and all this stuff, and all these fucking hippies and people were telling him that it was a vortex. And you know what? If I didn't know any better to this day, I would have said the same thing. But once you know this shit and you can experience it, you know what it is. He ended up going back, and all they found was his cell phone. So what probably happened in this case, and this is what they do to people out in the wilderness, is they create these sounds with either V2K or the sound in your vicinity, and scare the shit out of you. It could be a growl. It could be people coming for you. It could be gunshots. It could be numerous things. And they can scare you off course enough to the point where you end up lost or dead because of an accident due to a possible stupid move that you made, like jumping down a cliff because you think that a bobcat or something is coming to get you. You get what I'm saying? So they drive these people to do stupid shit. This guy went back to where he felt the vibrations. That was absolutely this weapon system. And when he went back, they fucked with him again, and this time he didn't end up coming back. So that's the case of Kenny Veach. That's the second one out of 7 that have used this technology. The fourth one was the disappearance of Walter Collins, and it has absolutely nothing to do with this stuff at all. So moving on. Emma Phillipov was in Canada living the hippie life. She'd walk around barefoot and, you know, eccentric artist type, and they love to target those people. This chick's just a normal, everyday hippie, somebody that you'd see at a grilled cheese eating hippie gathering. So anyway, she suddenly starts to get paranoid and she's acting terrified of people. She hides in like a 7-Eleven. They show footage of her hiding in a 7-Eleven and buying a cell phone, yet she didn't carry a cell phone on her, ever. She hated cell phones. So all this stuff going on, she's terrified of people and won't trust anybody, and it's because she's being hit with V2K. They're telling her that these people are coming for her, that these people are going to hurt her. She wants her mom to come get her, but then she ends up telling her, no, Mom, don't come today. Probably because after she did that, then they're telling her that, no, we're going to kill your mom when she shows up. We are going to kill your mom. So then she, texts her mom and says, don't come and get me. Don't come and get me. Because she's trying to rationalize what is happening to her. And she can't. And eventually she gets scared enough to where she either kills herself or puts herself in a situation where she ends up dying, trying to hide or get away from these people that she can't get away from. And that's exactly what happened to her. They used V2K to do this. She was absolutely under the control of V2K, paranoid that people are coming to get you. When you put these symptoms together that she had, it was totally V2K doing this to her. 100%. We have Lars Matank. It's the very next one after her. And it's the same thing. So this dude ends up getting in a bar fight with some people, and he gets punched in the ear. They were in Bulgaria, and he ends up getting in a bar fight with this guy and gets punched in the ear. And his friends are leaving, but he has a perforated eardrum, which is weird because perforated eardrums have a correlation with this, but not everybody has them. Anyway, Lars Matank, with his perforated eardrum, stays behind and then starts acting weird. So Lars Matank ends up calling his mom and saying, people are following me, they're coming to kill me. Blah, 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 blah. So they're doing the same thing, the same script every fucking time, and people aren't putting it together. And they don't want to tell people, I'm hearing voices, because they think that they're picking up, usually, these cases, with the tinnitus in the ear and the voices, they think that somehow, they're trying to rationalize this, and they think that they're picking up some sort of signal of being bugged, and somehow they can hear it, because that is usually what happens. So he calls his mom, says people are coming to kill him, and then he ends up going to the airport. They knew that these guys were showing up in the yellow hats. They can see what's going on. So they tell him, yeah, we've got some guys coming right now to kill you. You better run, right? So these guys come in with their yellow hats, hard hat workers that were right there, the example of it. These guys show up and he freaks out and says, I don't want to die here, and runs off because he's hearing V2K threatening him. They're telling him, these guys are coming to kill you right now. And then these guys suddenly show up You're gonna run, dude. So he runs, and they can never find him again. Probably because he was running for his life, which means you aren't suicidal. So he ended up putting himself in a really dangerous position trying to hide. They scared him into making a terrible mistake, and he died, and they still haven't found him. That is what happens. This is what is happening in these cases. So there are, out of 7, a random video, 7 disturbing mysteries, it has been used that many times. And this is the last time he's seen on video running for his life, trying to get the fuck away. And then they never see him again. So he died. They scared him into doing something really fucking stupid. And for some reason, they're loving doing it to these travelers when they're on their own, because they're capable of being panicked. You're in a place that you don't know. You know, he's got a perforated eardrum, can't fly, but he's just terrified. So they do this. This is absolutely what they do and what they're doing. The next case in this are these twins. They're the Palak twins, who had some really weird stuff happen with their sisters, like knowing what toys their dead sisters played with, what schools their dead sisters went to. And I'm not counting this, but this is a weird one because we know that they really love to experiment with twins. I know that, and twins are monitored in all countries. They love them because one can be a control and one is the one experimented on, usually. Now, they just experiment with them both, like the twins that were in England jumping in the middle of the freeways. But I'm not counting this, but this is another weird one that possibly could be some type of electromagnetic testing as well, early electromagnetic testing. We are not in an age where this is used once in a while on a lone CIA agent that may know something. This is used all the time on families, on individuals, on whistleblowers, on all different types of people. And I'm telling you that when they were testing the hum and testing those strange sounds heard around the world and testing with these hauntings through the years, they were testing a weapon and no one cared. And now they're coming and they're using it to kill your families and they're using it to kill your children. And if you don't know the symptoms and what this looks like, what this sounds like, and what they do, you are at risk, your kids are at risk, and your family is at risk. And I'm not even joking. Because what happens when your kid decides to look into some idea that isn't popular on the internet or write about some group or some independent organization or some agency, and the next thing you know, you've got a haunted house, or the kid is under demonic attack, or the plethora of scripts that they use on people and families. So heed this warning. They use all this stuff to hide this technology. Ghosts, demonic attacks, aliens, Bigfoot shit, paranormal stuff of every degree. Every degree. This is nothing more than the hidden targeted individual program. When they target you, most of the time, you are going to think that it's a ghost or an alien or some bullshit. And that's why they're pumping the ideas of ghosts and aliens and other bullshit. I'm telling you that this is what's happening. So watch it. Look out for Charlie.